Every single one of you needs to remember that, again, without each other here, there is no liberation. Coming out, again, to these workshops, rallies, protests, marches, that, again, is what you need to do. But you also need to remember what happens behind the scenes. What groups are you joining? What organizations are you joining? What grassroots are you joining? What are you doing behind the scenes?
We have just finished here with a protest organized by Total Liberation Committee, TLC. And it was a really interesting protest coming together of Asian communities, Black communities, and Palestinian. And here we have Mimi, who gave a really, really impassioned and powerful speech. So I know that you are completely exhausted, and it's been a very, very long several days for you. I know I don't want to even ask you how you're feeling, because I know it's got to be a very complicated question. And we here at Status Coup have been reporting very heavily on what is going on against Palestinians. I guess I'll start by asking you how it's been for you here in DC among these other organizers, how you feel in this community as of right now with these other people who are fighting with you.
I think it's been amazing, again, to see so much solidarity between our communities and our organizers. Is something that I haven't seen. It's something that is very, very new to me. To see it again be this prevalent, to be this common now, for the numbers to have grown, to again see even just more than just individual connections, as you said, organization connections, grassroots connections. I think again it gives me hope for humanity, and it gives me a lot of hope for, again, liberation for all of us, from the oppressed, for the oppressed, from our oppressors. And it makes me feel like, again, I can wake up without doubting that one day we will be free.
One thing that you mentioned during your speech is that it doesn't matter whether there are, 10,000 people in a space fighting with you or 10 people in a space fighting with you. What matters is what? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but if you can share that again.
So I'm half Palestinian and I'm half Syrian. So again, as a lot of people know, the Syrian Revolution, or not a lot of people, but the Syrian Revolution began in 2011 against the Assad regime, against his tyranny, and again the oppression that he has forced onto our people, that his father has forced onto our people since the 1980s, massacred and displaced millions of us. And again, that was one of the reasons why I mentioned that it doesn't matter if you have 10,000 people or only 10 people on your side. It matters that the voices are strong and powerful, and that the people that are part of, again, these protests, these workshops, these rallies, are dedicated individuals to continue making a change even behind the scenes. And what I found is that numbers, while they do matter in the grand scheme of things to media, in between these connections that we form, we do reach more people when it is a tighter knit community. And I say that because the connections that I've made through smaller protests have been far more, again, long lasting than protests with thousands of people. And it's great to see people show up for Palestine, to see people show up for Black Lives Matter, for Syria. But I do want to emphasize that it should never discourage organizers or people of movements, or again, any of the oppressed, to see fewer faces, only because, again, we all have the power to change the world, even if it's just one person. It is, again, the quality of the voices that are being heard, because you will have a lot of individuals show up and then never do the work. You will have individuals show up, take a bunch of pictures, and then dip out. They won't work behind the scenes. And I find that very harmful for our movement, because it goes to show that, again, a lot of people will normalize, and not even just that, but encourage that you just need to show up to protest and do nothing else, which again, as I said, causes a lot of division and a lot more of a lot less expectations as to how our movements will progress, because a lot of people, when they see other people only doing something else, groupthink, conformity, you'll see all of it. So again, a lot of human beings are functioned again to just conform to the way of life for others. So the more that people see that, again, behind the scenes, that people are organizing, that again there are opportunities that are said within these protests. People go on their phones, follow these groups, press the link to volunteer. That all leads to change. And I feel like when it is a smaller group of people, of individuals, they have a lot of power to again be passionate and dedicated, because you can't reach an entire crowd of people that is in the thousands. And like I said, thousands of people is very important for showing out. But just because you have a small group does not mean you're not making a difference.
On another line of thought is, and I know you've been speaking so much and talking so much, so I'm sure your voice is just gone. But one of the things that's been so frustrating for me as a journalist, and so I'm sure that means it's 100 times more frustrating for you as a Palestinian, is the propaganda that comes out of Israel, and therefore the propaganda that is repeated by MSNBC, by CNN, by Fox, of course. For example, after the so-called ceasefire, when Palestinians were celebrating at the Al-Aqsa Mosque, they of course cleared them out with tear gas and projectiles, etc. But an official Israel account posted, we allow all faiths to celebrate here, literally posting so-called happy worshipers literally at the same time that they were violently ejecting folks and beating a CNN producer. And so CNN, of course, did not report that they were beating their producer, and did not report that was a literal lie. So I guess all that is to say that you are up against a lot. There are so many lies out there. And for me as an independent journalist who seeks to always present the truth and always, present the side of justice, how do people fight this? I mean, you are fighting for your people, and there are folks out there who want to know the truth. So what in your opinion is to be done about this slew of misinformation?
Independent journalists. Independent journalists is my answer. Because again, simply even journalism, the field is not funded as much as it should be. Again, journalists really do not make jack. If I'm being honest, they don't make enough.
I can confirm.
Yep. And again, you have independent journalists who come out here who are reporting the truth. Because a lot of people don't trust media outlets. You will see people in different political spectrums both criticizing, again, all of the media outlets being like, when it comes to this, I don't trust this. When it comes to this, I don't trust that. And so again, independent journalists bring on ground information. They bring real, raw, genuine information. And again, footage. You interview people who aren't scripted. You know what I'm saying? And so again, when you have independent journalists, when you have creatives, when you have, again, different art groups, when you have different movements advocating for Palestinians, spreading out the truth, spreading out the messages, because social media has made a change. I will say again, videography, footage, filmmaking, a lot of that has really, really made a very big difference within our movements, again, within the Palestinian Liberation Movement, within Black Lives Matter movement. It's really amazing what videos can do. I would say again, people in Gaza have been taking videos, sending them over of the bombs dropping, videos of babies with legitimate bullets in their arms, videos of, young women and men with blown up legs, blown up arms, rubber bullets. You'll see children crying over their father or their mother's dead body, their brother's dead body. That is all very raw footage. It's not, again, they try to censor it, Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. But as more people post, the less likely they can just keep censoring every single person that's posting. And so I feel like, again, despite the media outlets, the very big media outlets not wanting to report the truth because, again, they don't want to risk their funding when that is what journalism is all about. It is about reporting the truth. It is about refusing, again, to report nonsense and, again, not report about the truth, because journalism holds such a strong power within this country. Such a strong power. And again, until we continue, until we call it out for what it is.
The 500 bikes are coming this way. We should probably move.
Oh, okay.
Until we call it out for what it is, for, again, Zionism holding such a strong power in this country that media outlets can't even report without being called anti-Semitic, we won't get anywhere. We need to keep pushing this narrative. And I'm actually very, very tired about saying that anti-Zionism does not equate to anti-Semitism.
Right.
Because it should already be just, what is the word? Common sense. It should already be just given.
On the topic of journalist, friend and colleague, Abby Martin made a wonderful documentary, Gaza Fights for Freedom. And so I wanted to bring up part of a really striking part of that documentary is not just, when Israel is attacking Gaza, but also the day-to-day for those in Gaza, where there's not clean water, where there's so much disease through the water because Israel doesn't allow them the parts for the infrastructure to rebuild what they need. And the food rations where they're forced to eat like spices and not, it's not food that is healthy. It's not even really able to be considered food in many cases. And now it's even worse where they've bombed out purposely, Israel has bombed out purposely a lot of the other infrastructure. So do you fear that now that there's this so-called ceasefire, that people will forget about the day-to-day of those who live in Gaza?
People already have. And that is why we will continue to storm the streets. That is why we will continue to fight. That is why we are here. That is why we're forming. Again, we have this solidarity. We have these alliances. Because the same with, again, other oppressed groups here within the United States and outside of the United States, it's a very common theme for the media to, again, take this narrative that the oppressors are stopping their oppression. The occupiers have decided they are no longer going to occupy. Nobody focuses on the day-to-day lives of Palestinians, even within the West Bank. Again, you can't walk from your home to even a market without being stopped. Checkpoints, hours and hours of being stopped at checkpoints, of being, again, intimidated with these, not even rifles, but again, their weapons are brutal. And even the tactics that they use, their terrorist tactics that they use, continue to get more and more brutal. And people will continue to, again, justify the killings and murders of Palestinians. They will continue to call Israel what it is, an apartheid state. They will continue to justify their terrorism. There have been reports that as for the mental health of the children in Gaza, the rates of PTSD are so high and so different than any other place that now it's not even post-traumatic stress disorder, it's traumatic stress disorder, because it is ongoing. It is every day, it is every single day. These children are our future. We have, again, a generation of us right now who right here in America, we've been privileged enough to get into residencies, into medical programs, and to, again, make a difference in different, again, like systems. But the children in Gaza, even just all around the oppressed communities, even here in DC, they have the access to basic resources such as books taken away. So when you take away the right to education, the right to reading, the right to stimulating the brain of knowledge. You are again restraining a human being from the simplest form of experience, of reading other people's stories, of other people's experiences. You're refraining children, even just older men and women, of feeling human as if, again, they're able to read. And one of the most important things I think I've heard is that within the school systems here, you have to, when you're younger, you have to fill out like these papers where like your parents sign off on a book that you read that week. And so you see here the importance of reading, of libraries, of now audiobooks.
Yeah, it did. It was moving.
And it's heartbreaking because we don't see any media or anyone covering the fact that there are libraries being bombed, that the people in Gaza and Palestine don't have access to books. And again, even going to universities, you got to go all the way to Tel Aviv. It's simple human rights, it's simple resources, and I'm very tired of people saying it's complicated because it's not. How is a child a terrorist? How are people defending themselves terrorists? Second Amendment talks about self-defense. Breonna Taylor was shot in her own home for defending herself, for again, the cops simply applying the Second Amendment to when it comes to white folk. Kyle Rittenhouse was able to storm the streets, and again with his rifle, nothing happened to him. Dylan Ruff shot up a bunch of people in black shirt, taken to Burger King after high-fived by officers. Nothing happens to them. That is why we talk about white supremacy. Again, that is why we talk about European white descent supremacy. And again, without reading, without these basic accesses, with libraries being bombed, these children are growing up without a place to lose themselves, to distract themselves. They can't distract themselves with anything. They don't have electricity, they don't have internet. If they do have internet, it's very, very slow. So again, we're losing a generation of children, and until we wake the fuck up and we wake people up, will we ever see a generation that follows ours, the passion and dedication that we have.
Is there anything else that you want people to know who feel underinformed, or maybe who feel touched for the first time, maybe are paying attention for the first time, and want to take action or want to know what to do next to help?
I say join movements. Do your research. Don't just listen to your white history textbooks. Stop following major media sources. Follow independent journalists. Look at the narrative that they're spewing. Look at, again, what content that they are creating. Look at who they're covering. Look at the people. The credibility of the people that they are interviewing, that they are talking to, the words that they use. Look at, again, real life stories of Palestinians and their day-to-day lives. See the difference. Use your voice to voice for the voiceless. That's what I have to say.
Thank you so much.